Buys first, and I think let's start with just a regular hefty curl. I've been on a little bit of a kick of like cable curls or preachers first. Let's keep it classic here. So 60s within reason, 80s might be pushing it a touch, so I'll call it a nice middle ground with the 70s. But this should be a pretty decently high rep set. I'm not done. Let's do a little rest pause for this one. Okay. Okay. One more of those. Okay. Holy shit. Holy crap. I've got a plan. I know a good movement for the next one. Single arm. Have not thrown these in for a while, and I'm not sure why. So, pretty hefty. Honestly, I'd say as heavy as you could actually do for a good set of maybe 8. But the kicker is by the time I can't get to, a full contraction, and I'm only moving it to like here, like this is all I got, at least without trying to swing it like a punk, that's when I'll use my other hand and assist on the way up to the top. Still get a good squeeze and just ride the negative. So kind of going beyond failure. And you don't need a spotter because you got your other free hand. So this will be a good start. And 60 is about it, at least for today. Yeah, usually 5 extra is about the sweet spot. Okay. Oh, shit. Oh, let's do some preachers. All right, these preachers should be good. Not too heavy. And that's something to take into consideration because those sets of, kind of concentration curls, a little extra, if you know what I'm saying. I'm talking like just overall damage on a set-by-set basis. One with intensifiers like that, going really beyond failure. If all my sets look like that, I've had bicep days where I only did 4 sets of those. And if I had done just like, failure, did like 10 reps instead of the extra 5, I may have only felt like I needed to do, or I may have felt like I needed to do more like 6 or 7, So sometimes if you it's just like an inverse relationship, man. More intensity, potentially lower volume, But either way, biceps are definitely cooked after 4 of those heavy sets. So now transitioning to more of a squeezing, slightly higher volume preacher set should be good here. So 150 pounds out of the 250 pound stack. That's about right. Holy crap. I gotta drop that shit to 130. All right. Let's start some pushdowns. Some rope extensions to start has kind of been my freaking favorite. Light enough, obviously, to squeeze. If I went too heavy, I would just be moving the weight. And if I want to do that, I'll do a straight bar pushdown or like an overhead something. I mean, not an overhead, but like doing the pullover pushdowns over there. So this is more so acting as a starter because it's heavy enough that it's a good set. Like it's basically failure at whatever rep range I'm hitting. But each rep also kind of just serves to really warm me up and get me started. Because since I'm fresh, I can really squeeze. When you have pumped triceps, I don't really like doing the rope, at least not trying to squeeze it, because by the time my triceps are fully pumped, they don't even really like straighten the whole way. Like they're almost running into themselves in a sense. So squeezing movements usually start tries. They don't finish them. Usually. I do have exceptions. Yeah. 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 Okay. One more. Oh. Two. Yeah. Okay. Let's do some overhead extensions next instead of another push down. Because I know I want to finish with more basic kind of straight bar, fixed bar push downs. Set up as such, cheek of your choice against the upright, kind of in a little bit of a not exactly symmetrical way. But then you can really put weight into the upright to keep yourself steady so that when you're pressing, you don't have to do like this weird balancing act. And I prefer the easy bar to the rope. But when I see guys like just standing in the middle of nothing, I want more stability than that. And this accommodates it. One more. All right. Okay. Whew. Let's go do some pullover pushdowns and go from there. All right, so nothing too fancy here, but it's just kind of a modified straight bar pushdown. The fact that it's on the pullover backwards, it doesn't change it. One thing I do like is it's beats, maybe not beats, but it's different than a regular pushdown with a cable. Because with the cable, I got the bar here, but I can't really bend over and get into a natural tricep pushing position because, the cable's going to hit me. So what do? Go sideways? Develop a muscular imbalance? So when possible, I do like a cableless pushdown. Rare, but I see them sometimes. Or you just jerry-rig your own. Okay, one more of these. Oh. Yeah. Let's go find some lighting. Arms are pumped up. All right. Arms pumped. And one way that I know they're pumped, beyond the fact that, just because that's the way it is I can't touch finger to shoulder. That's a decent test. If you're like in a full double bicep and you're trying to reach as far as possible and you just can't get shoulder to finger contact, that's a good sign. That's a pretty decent sign. But let's start this back day off, or what am I saying? This arm pump check off from the back. Oh boy. I've got a tendency to start from the front sometimes. So just as much as I want to change up the workouts, the posing deserves a little spice up as well. Let's see, where's a good angle? Yeah, something like that. Oh. Oh my goodness. I'm still not at the point of the diet where holding a vacuum is particularly easy yet, but it does get easier. Oh my goodness. All right. Arms complete. Now that's left is I'm gonna go eat something. So let's get in the freaking car, pack this shit up. All done. All right. So today actually has a common freaking theme. Pythons. Two of which I'm trying to maintain my size with as I get leaner up here. And then I go down to my freaking basement and flip the lights on. What do I find? This little thing. What the hell? Like, what the hell? So I kept trying to look it up and like figure out what kind of like, it's not a corn snake, but usually like regular water snakes are just a little more black. I don't know. Just some random ass Ohio. Like I wasn't gonna get bit or nothing. So I put him in a shaker cup and I just let him out. Actually, that's not true. I didn't let him out. I put him out. I got a little box with a thing of water and a bunch of just like weeds and plants, just because I want to see it later. But I'm certainly not, I don't really have any interest in having a little terrarium with a snake in it. I got my fill of having a like a desk pet like that when I was a kid. When I think I got one from a pet shop as a turtle, and then we caught one at a pond. So we gave my regular, there's no domestic turtle, but we just put a random ass baby pond turtle in with the one we got from the freaking pet store. So poor guy got kind of just jumped in on, like, you wouldn't put a coyote in with your cats, But I remember thinking they were super cool at the time, but kind of a little bit of a smell to any kind of enclosure like that, unless it's like your whole thing, you love cleaning it and it's it's just fun for you. But no, so plan for today with arms, beef them up. It's freaking bright. Oh, there we go. And just beef them up, smack them around, give them a pump, and then go home and eat. And right now I don't have to eat like a total freak. I can kind of just eat regular. Right now it feels very normal in the sense that the food that I eat and like the meal size is just about right. Like that's what I was kind of hungry for anyway, so that's kind of my state of being right now, relatively mellow. And then really I can kind of stay at this sort of grazing pace for probably another couple of weeks, where me just, eating the amount of food that feels normal is just about at my kind of calorie goal, just barely maintenance right there. But over time, I will have to gradually decrease it. But for a longer, slower dieting phase, there's no need to crash your intake to the max, or I guess you'd rather say to the minimum, instantly, because that's not going to work. I mean, it would work, but you wouldn't get the results you're really looking for. And that's the classic logic of, anybody where they argue. Like, there's people that argue very passionately. Working out doesn't work. Even if you lose the body fat, even if you lose the weight, it's just going to come back, because that's what you're naturally, that's what your body naturally is. It's equilibrium at. And I understand the logic, because if you totally lock into a serious over diet, you're working out every day super hard, you're not really, it's too much, but you're still doing it. And then after you're finally done, and you just, kind of chill out. I mean, I could definitely see putting the weight back on, but the whole point of a gradual, not even too gradual, but just slower deficit, slower dieting phase, is just the consistency, because it's not so abrupt that you really feel like any one day is a total insane kind of grind. It's like the experiment about how you put a frog into a pot of boiling water. Well, you put a frog into a pot of standard room temperature water, right? It's just sitting there, and then you gradually increase the temperature slowly. The thing doesn't even notice, and it just gets boiled, because the changes, even though they're drastic, they were slow, so there was no eureka moment or whoa, right? So that's where having a consistent routine, dieting wise, calorie wise, cardio wise, right? I got the cardio down in got the bike. I was about to say the bike 24/7. That's not true. The bike 30 minutes a day, 7 times a week. And it's, it's not anything crazy. I don't have to do a marathon of cardio. I don't have to do a full day fast, overnight, 24-hour. It's, I'm still eating a good chunk of food, but it's just barely low enough, including my energy expenditure, that I'll get gradually, slowly leaner, and it's something which I've got a bit more of my own experience with, because I've dieted up and down, maybe not 7 times, at least 5 times. So for me, I kind of I know the kind of tricks and things that work well for me, just from having done it so many times. And hearing someone say a tip or a little trick or a meal or whatever, that's all fun and good, but actually trying it yourself and seeing if it works, that's going to be much more valuable, right, on a lifter by lifter basis, because you'll actually learn what is actually going to work for you. We're very obsessed right now with the idea of okay, what is the best way to do this? What is the most perfect way? And honestly, I don't think it's the best when people say that what they say is the best. It's it's what works, and it has worked for them, but objectively the best, I wouldn't really give that title of training to anyone. But the idea is okay, I don't want to work out unless it's a guarantee that what I do is going to be perfect. And I don't think it's like that. You should try your own stuff. You should see what works. Who's to say that you're not the one genetic freak who responds to a kind of training that nobody's ever done? Maybe not, but just to take an argument to an extreme, as much as we can write out on paper, I'm going to do this routine, and I'm going to have this progression, and I'm going to overload, and I'm going to hit a 315 bench by the time that's on paper, right? That's a plan. But in reality, your plan's gonna have some wrenches thrown into your gears, and you might have to flip around and try some new stuff or whatever. So that's why I'll probably always come back to the idea that your results will speak for themselves, right? Given the proper context of what your goals are and everything else that you're doing in and out the gym. You could say that you're doing the perfect routine. I see it all the time. Guys who say they're gonna, I'm gonna start eating, man. I'm gonna get big this summer. This winter, bro, Winter bulk, I'm locked in. Demon Arc, I go to the same gyms every year. Or, well, I mean, I make my way around. I see the same people, even from like gyms I get to visit. But the gyms that I go to, I'm there. I've been at them for years, and I've seen the guys who say that. And it's not everyone, of course, but usually there's a little bit of a pattern of the guys who kind of like, oh, dude, I'm gonna do it, man. It's like, what's compelling someone to put out in the world like I'm gonna do it, right? I think it's a stronger force to kind of turn that inward and give your own kind of self-talk, like, oh yeah, let's do this, and then let the whatever you just did or accomplished sort of speak for itself. You know what I'm saying? So not as glamorous, because let's say you're aiming for like a crazy squat, a big bench. Let's say you're going to compete, you're going to do a whole, bodybuilding show, natural, unnatural, either one, whatever. It's like, saying you're going to do it doesn't really give you any props, right? I mean, if you actually make it happen, then that's cool. But for me, I've always kind of liked the idea of, not necessarily making any claims. And maybe that's just my own, like, subconscious defense mechanism, where it's like, if you never say what you're planning on doing, then let's say if you didn't make it happen, it's not going to splash back in your face, right? Because let's say some dude is like, I'm going to compete next year, I'm going to be diced, I'm going to do this show, and hey, what happened to that show you said you were going to do? And then excuse city, But for the guys who, like that, just maybe kind of added pressure of like, dude, I'm going to show you. And then they do show whoever that guy was they were talking to. I'm sure that's a good feeling. So, there's no, even with your own freaking mental motivation and like goal setting, it's a person-to-person thing, So if you, I guess what I'm maybe getting at, training, or even just on more of a personal note, it's like the more you can know yourself, the more you can kind of, not give yourself the benefit of the doubt, but sort of give yourself setups and routines and things that resonate well, right? But I think no more rambling. How about we just get in there and start up arms? Not certain how I want this lift to look. I think I'll make that decision once I start warming up. Because let's say my triceps still feel tender from chest, or from the last arm day even, right? When I'm dieting down, I'll have muscle soreness extend a couple extra days if I really had an awesome lift, but obviously I'm not eating enough food to facilitate it. So it's, I could say I'm going to do crazy heavy triceps, but if I get in there and they feel a little more tender, maybe I'm going to say lighter, lower volume. Maybe I'd even say I'll skip triceps today and save them for next week because I hit them hard enough the last time and kind of overdid it. Right, but we'll just have to see. But let's no more rambling. Let's go get started. All right, let's assume you've been working out for a while, right? I know I have, and I mean, just try to remember what your goals were as a freaking beginner, or if you started working out long ago enough, kind of even like a chitlin. I just Mark just sent me a video from 2018. Almost a year ago, a few days, and honestly right around now, this is just about when I started working out at. So I'm at like the 7-year mark, maybe a little more like 7.5, but just about the 7.5-year mark. And the video is me doing 185 on flat. I don't know how many reps I could get. I don't think it was 10. They look pretty clean though, but I mean back then, dude, I was freaking over the world even to bench 200 the first time. Or the first time I hit 250. I think the first time I ever benched 300 was in the basement gym. But it wasn't a flashy 300. Because it was, the plates that I had was like a 300-pound weight set. So it's not like, plates. It's a 45, a 35, a 25, a 10, a 5, and a 2.5. And it all added up nicely. It might have been 2.5, I don't remember. But it all added up very nicely to 300. And that was nuts. Because I mean, especially in the beginning, like the trend starts to trail off But early on, lifting wise, year 1, year 2, year 3, it's pretty comparable to look at your strength gains and your size gains. They do start to diverge, where the bigger you get, sometimes it doesn't exactly translate to any more strength. I think if we're talking about like a 6-foot dude, peak functional strength size, it's probably somebody like a John Hack. I don't know what weight class that he's lifting in, but that's got to be probably around like the optimal ratio of strength and size. Because if you're lighter, obviously you're not going to be as strong as a guy 50 pounds heavier than you. But if you get heavier, if you're 30% heavier, it might not mean you're lifting 30% more weights, right? But in the pursuit bodybuilding wise, not as important. But in the beginning, shit, man, mass moves mass, So a good challenge to, a good kind of thought process to challenge your lifts. It's to look at it as though, trying to do weight you've never done before for reps that you've never done before. And I'm not talking like, do freaking, pull downs that are so heavy you're like wrenching it and you have like that weird like shouldery look of pulling at the bottom. I'm just saying like, okay, I did single leg extensions, 110 for 30, or not 30, but like 110 for 20, real like burning, squeezing. All right, let's try to do 115 or like 120, like little things like that in the spirit of progressive overload, and it's not something that I've ever really tried to track on paper. Of course, I have all sorts of now I've got thousands of hours of like video documentation of my training, at least for the last, I think, nearly 3 years. So that's kind of my version of my log. But I was never one to like write my lifts down on a week by week, like powerlifting program kind of style. It's and the way I look at it is, I don't think you actually have to do that. If you like it, then do it. But I don't think it's a necessity, because I'm more so trying to put myself in a position where I'm going to come to the gym with the same like goal or kind of mindset frame, and then have that be set up to progress long term. So if I come into the gym and I'm telling myself, okay, I want to do a weight that is basically up there as much as I can handle for whatever rep range I'm aiming for. Maybe it's a heavy set of squats, so that rep range will be down close to like 8 or 10. Maybe it's a little bit of a higher rep set of, incline press, and then it might be like 15. So it's just kind of a weird way to reference sets, because somebody could say they did 3 sets of 10, but does that really tell you everything about the set? The guy might have done those 3 sets of 10, but he could have done 3 sets of 20. So the sets were like half as many reps as he could have handled. So the way I look at it, when I describe a workout, when I'm saying like, I did incline Smith 3 sets, 10 reps, or if I'm describing how my workout was, what I mean by that is those 10 reps were basically right there at failure. Heavy presses usually is legit failure, and then some lighter squeezing movements, it's more so just kind of aiming for like a good burning fatigue sensation, right? Like, and the more you do it, the more you'll kind of know the difference, if you kind of get what I'm saying, right? But it's if I'm coming into the gym with the mindset of, all right, I'm gonna do this set of 10 at a weight that I know is really gonna make that last one a grinder, and I do every set like that, be it a heavy set of curls like in the beginning of today's lift, or overhead extensions where it's a bit more just like torturous and just can't even freaking move, like whatever rep number that is that I'm aiming for, or whatever like bracket of reps I'm aiming for, like I want to really bring it. And if I know that I did that and like I wasn't lying to myself, then as long as I give myself ample recovery time, I'm gonna come back a stronger guy, right? You could just say a more powerful lifter, So if now your baseline strength, let's exaggerate it just for this reference, but let's say you came back and from that real wild chest day you just did, you yourself as a whole are now 10% stronger. if you come into the gym with the same mentality of, okay, I'm going to do these sets for these many reps and I really want to make it hard, then as long as you guess the weight right, that's going to put you at, whatever percent higher weight for the workout. So it's just this like kind of scaling effect where every lift should be just a little extra than the last one. Now it's a little bit of a different story because I'm dieting, so I'm not really growing. The goal now is simply maintaining my size and strength, but it's the same thing. I'm keeping my foot on the gas, making sure these lifts are at an intensity I'm comfortable with and know is gonna keep me big and strong, so that as I get leaner and cut down food, I'm gonna still be beefy underneath. And as all this body fat starts to come off, those cuts and everything will gradually be revealed, right? But the main theme is keep your foot on the gas. Don't catch yourself slacking. And if you do, dude, figure something out quick. Like there are I can understand that there's phases. I can understand that maybe a few weeks you got really motivated, something about just a video or a movie you watched, or like you ran into somebody you hadn't seen before for a while. I don't know, a million different reasons. And for that month you're like just a little extra amped. And then you might feel like you're kind of in a dog days phase. It's like, I'm still working out, but it's just not the same. Like maybe you get this feeling of kind of like maybe a little bit of aimlessness. I felt a little bit of that the first time ever, pretty much. And this was after I was done competing earlier this year. So, February comes around, I'm like, all right, muscle contest, Vegas. All right, sweet, nice. Because I was real, like, blinders on for those few months beforehand, like basically more than ever. So it was kind of like hyper fixated on that goal of the competition season. It's like, all right, we made it. It's time for the Arnold Amateur. All right. And then once it was over and I got back to the gym and everything, it took me like a week. It took me, I think, a week and a half to kind of get myself back into like, all right, what's next? Like I was just working so hard for this thing. I'm like, and that, okay, what? So it took a couple days for me to kind of recenter myself and remember. It's like, all right, no, yeah, we got an off season right now. All right, let's redirect. It was a little trickier for me to kind of redirect my course because of how like focused. Like I talk a lot about how if you did like how your phone has watch time and you can see how much time you spent on every app. Like if you did that on my brain the few months before those bodybuilding competitions this year, dude, lifting, dieting, cardio, that was up there way more than freaking normal. And it was so it just took a second to get out of that little slump I had, but if you're ever in that kind of thing, at least what helped me was just remembering, like, okay, like what's next, and not what's next in this like moment, like not what's next week, like what's next this year, like what are my overarching goals that I want to achieve. And I think it's good to have ones that are a little bit broader. Not like, obviously you need like list-based goals where it's like, okay, today I got to do this, and this, whatever. But I think there's a different sort of motivation when it comes to having more grandiose, like not even specific goals, just a little bit more broad, because the point isn't instantly accomplishing them, right? I mean, if your thing is like you want to get pretty lean, like you want abs, you want forearm veins, and you're a 350 pounder, like you've got to be obsessed with the idea of you in the future. So what I kind of boil that down to, and like, okay, what kind of headspace do you want to be in to really get yourself amped on a day-by-day basis for something that you won't see the reward from for years, maybe sometimes months, but sometimes years into the future. Then what gets me going is knowing that I'm on track, right? Knowing, all right, I'm eating my food, I'm hitting these lifts very well, I'm getting my sleep, I'm well hydrated, I got my jug, all right, nice. I'm on track. I'm in the green. I've got an upward trajectory. So, no matter what else might happen, or maybe I fell short of whatever the goal was, or just if I know that every day I'm making even just inches of progress, relatively, then that's cool with me. Because then you're not in this like catching up kind of thought process. It's not like, okay, I want to get to the same level as this guy. Because if you kind of get this like internal motivation, like, all right, I want to be a little better at this, and I want to keep doing everything it takes on the regular, and you're kind of a little bit more self-centered with your focus rather than trying to compare yourself to whoever else, then honestly, I feel like, progress, or, we'd say gains, it just kind of happens, because if you're the guy who likes working out and doing his cardio and like just reaping the benefits from really locking into working out in all facets, well, guess what? You don't even have to think about like, okay, I need to get bigger. I need to get a bigger chest. I need a bigger bench. I need to get a little bit leaner on this diet. Like, you don't even have to think that, because you know that what you're doing is working. And some of that's just from, experience. So for me, I've dieted down and gotten pretty lean more than a handful of times. I've gotten bulked up the same amount. So I've got at least my own repertoire of like, times and tricks and like kind of overcoming whatever, shutting the pantry door, knowing I could like totally destroy 3 packs of ramen or like just whatever treat I wanted or something, or eating a bigger bowl of food that I wasn't like super excited to eat, because I knew that long term I was going to be glad I did it, because it's going to benefit me in the future. Oh, nice. It was hard for me to not stop at Sheetz and get a Ben & Jerry's because I know they're in there. But I did it. Now I proved to myself that I could do it. Nice. So it's just a situation of delayed gratification, which is definitely a tricky one. That's not and the argument is it's a little difficult. Do this thing that is hard, that you don't really like on a, instinctual level. You probably don't want to do it. Like that's the whole point of why dieting is hard, because your body wants to eat. Like you as a living thing want to do something, and then consciously you're trying to hold back that urge. It's not the easiest thing in the world, and I'm not trying to say it is. But if you can overcome it, right? If you can overcome that just that instinct to just, right? Not only is it going to prove that you've got the kind of just mental willpower to handle it, but even doing it strengthens that willpower in the first place. Every diet and bulk that I've ever done was easier than the last one, because I got more practice doing it before. And I mean, I've said this definitely on numerous occasions. By proving you can do something which you've never done is now just basically broadening your range of capabilities. So to do it again, you've already done it. Right? It's nothing, Now something that's a little hard and like a little bit barely out of reach, now that's even further away. So the closer you get to whatever you might really be capable of, it's just this kind of climbing effect, So it's something that's a little tricky to see early on, because I'm talking like, if I took original Sam as a lifter, 165, 160, I think about 165 or so. If I took him and I showed him me only 2 years later, I'd be freaking shocked. Not to mention, honestly, if I showed him me now, my version, it might not even, I can almost guarantee I wouldn't believe it. Like if you took a picture of me or showed a video of me lifting, maybe just blurred my face or whatever, and showed me now to beginning lifter Sam, who is this guy? Like I can almost guarantee I wouldn't recognize myself. So be that a good thing or a bad thing, right, who's to say? But plan now, go eat something, shower off, and probably try to chill outside a little bit. It is nice. Sunny, very clear skies, only a little cloudy, but in kind of a cool way. And it's not too hot. I gotta get a bike. So if you guys have been watching for a while, you remember the lift where I came in, and I almost definitely told you the story about when I got my bike stolen back when I was at college. because I would leave it in front of my apartment and I wouldn't lock it up, and nothing happened for months. So I'm, in my mind, I'm like, I guess we're good. And then the day before finals, I go down, I'm like, all right, I got 5 minutes to get to class. It's a 5-minute bike ride. I'm good. And they pulled off the perfect heist because they took it right during finals, so everybody's leaving. That's a freaking. They crossed state lines with my bike. I can guarantee it. But either way, I think that that's fun for me. So I think I might want to do that instead of cardio, just to make use of the warmth. Because I don't mind the bike at all. Like, do not get me wrong, I do not mind the seated bike, but it's a little more fun riding around through town and just neighborhoods, and like, for me, it's kind of nostalgic. I'm getting a little nostalgia factor motivating me to do my cardio, because I was when I was in early high school, maybe barely a little middle school, I don't remember, but that was like when Pokemon Go was fresh. Yeah, I had the bike mount. I had the bike phone mount where you didn't actually have to hold it. You just zip it around. Yeah, it was fun. I don't think I'm going to do that, but I think I'll put on some Delray Misfit podcasts, which if you know, and just kind of get some fresh air. It's probably good for me too. I need some UV. But yeah, I think nothing else to discuss. I'll see you tomorrow for some. I'll see. Tomorrow might be quads, or it might be hamstrings. Dropping my calories even to maintenance, a full leg day at this frequency is hitting me a little harder than expected. So I might just, I don't know, I'll think about it. Obviously, I want to keep my legs as big and strong as I can keep them during this diet, but I don't want to overdo it either, and then just constantly have sore legs. It's going to mess with my cardio. Maintenance is the goal, and I'm trying to optimize that for me. So that's my task. But I'm sure I'll have more to say about that tomorrow. So I'll see you then.